He's good to go. You're there, you can see me, I can't see you. This could be a perfect relationship, Craig. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Michael?
Honestly, I should have had relationships like that, Craig. It would have worked out just so well. Listen, mate, you're off somewhere because I'm talking to you a lot earlier. You're having a big day today.
Oh, it's a series of meetings that I just can't shift. So
That's all
I'm
right.
grateful that you can be a bit more malleable at your end, so we still get the opportunity to talk, but not at 12 o'clock, but at 10:15. So thank you.
Not a problem, mate. No, it's lovely to have you on. Okay, I've read this morning in the New Zealand Herald, I'd be interested in your thoughts, that chief executives and corporates sort of moved to the boardroom stuff are saying that it's actually a bit tougher this year than they thought it was going to be. Is that what you're thinking as well?
Well, I think I counselled you last year around that hope strategy for 2025,
Yeah.
survive until 25, and I just thought that was optimistic. Cost of living pressures, funding costs, challenges around figuring out where Trump moves to next, changing logistics and value chains. Some of this is kind of normal, but the key thing is the revenue lines are struggling because people don't have the cash, and it's difficult to spot new opportunities given the funding costs and the valuation of some assets. So there's still got to be a price adjustment to go through, I think, some assets to reinvigorate the corporate sector. So it needs confidence, it needs opportunities. But I've always said for some time now that parts of our economy are doing extremely well, and you talk to the dairy sector, those associated with it, that's very strong, and the cash flow through the regions will be amazing over the next 6 months. So it's not all doom and gloom, but it is difficult, and I think you're seeing that in business confidence.
I'm also noticing, and just on the provincial stuff there, mate, that tourism numbers are apparently, I just read a report this morning, back to where they were pre-COVID. Again, tourism, daring, pulling New Zealand out of the fire again.
Yeah, I don't know if they're back to 2019 levels. I think I'm going to pick a number, 80%, 90%. So I'm not sure they're 100% back. But definitely an important crutch, particularly in the tourist towns that you've mentioned, both North and South Island. So that's good too. And it affects all the servicing industry that services those tourists, obviously. So yes, absolutely fantastic. Great to have them back.
And how ironic, because those are two things that the Greens and the woke hate most. Tourism, because they don't like people actually travelling here and burning up carbon, and daring because they hate daring, full stop. It's ironic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and you think about the markets for that. I'm not seeing a lot of Chinese tourists coming down, but I am seeing more North Americans. When you think about the exchange rate we've got, it's a great time to come to New Zealand from North America, the Aussies and the Europeans as well. Dairy, yes, we've got volume with the exception maybe of Southland, a very good growing season through spring and summer, drying off a bit now, but volumes are okay, and the export prospects into China, touch wood, are still okay, but there's some risks around that marketplace, obviously, with a couple of their naval ships hunting around the Tasman and the South Pacific. So, hopefully Winston, Minister of Foreign Affairs, is able to be very clear with his counterpart in Beijing that, hey, can you let us know when you fire off a few rockets? Because we're flying planes between New Zealand and Australia. We'd quite like to know you're going to be firing stuff in international waters. So hopefully they take that on board.
No, well, he says he has done that. I've read overnight reports of his meeting with his Chinese counterpart, in which he did raise that issue. He says he did, ask exactly what you asked, Craig. Could you just tell us, please? You have absolutely legitimate right to be there, but we just need to know. But the thing that struck me about that was, I don't know, Craig, sometimes I think we live in an alternate universe, that trade and geopolitical issues, they seem to exist in two different worlds, don't they? We're very lucky in this country. The Chinese have warned us I can remember with kiwi fruit exports for a wee while there was a bit of dairy hold up and stuff like that. But the Chinese have let us know when they're unhappy with us by imposing tariffs, not so much tariffs, but stopping stuff at the border and things like that, or saying, oh, your certification isn't up to grade. They haven't done that, so presumably we haven't upset them too much.
Yeah, the so-called non-tariff barriers, so quarantine issues exactly at the border. Some of our horticultural products, I think, got hurt by that. But yeah, since then it's been pretty good. I've argued that we're sort of walking the tightrope between the US and China, but officials from Foreign Affairs sort of push back at that and say, no, no, all we do is express our right to be a sovereign nation, working with anybody we like on our terms, to the best that we can. And I think that was a very good pushback, that we stand up for what we believe in, as
Yeah.
we're trying to do with China around the courtesy of letting us know what you're doing in our neighbourhood. I'm sure we would let them know if our naval ships, if they could fire missiles from their platforms in the off the Taiwanese Straits. I'm sure we'd let the Chinese know in a reciprocal way, although we might not want to lose much in the way of shells. We don't have many of them, but I'm sure we'll reciprocate. So I don't think it's a tightrope. I think that's a fair comment. I think it's very strong standing on our 2 feet, that we are the nation that we are. We have these secular values, these values of self-expression. We're not like your political system, but we want to trade with you and we respect you as a nation as well. If you can get that going for the US and China, we might be able to work through this difficult bipolar world that you mentioned.
Just on that, I'll talk electricity price in a moment, but just on that issue, I noticed that this deal, and if I can just segue a little bit to show how much US foreign policy's changed, and that's to do with Donald Trump and Zelensky. Zelensky is now apparently heading to Washington, I think, to sign the minerals deal. And I was sitting on the loo, which is a strange place, I know, to think these sorts of things. But there I was this morning thinking, do you know, Donald Trump's going to end this war. It was in sort of no man's land. No one was going anywhere. Neither side could beat the other. And he's going to walk out of this war with a minerals deal with the Ukraine. Sort of the art of the deal seems to have worked for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. He promised pre-election to talk to Putin on day one of his ascension to the presidency to talk about peace. He's a month late, but hey, he's done that. Um, he's put in, well, the public of America have put in, taxpayers have put in, I don't know, 100, $150 billion of support. Not as much as maybe the Europeans, but a large amount for supporting Ukraine via kind of a NATO lens. But he's saying, what do we get back for that? You might recall Germany paid reparations for years after World War II. Or even after World War One, which is the cause of angst amongst the German people leading up to World War II. But I think what he's saying is that we want to get paid back for that. But if you do a Google Maps search in Ukraine of where the biggest minerals are, those precious metals that he's talking about, the lithiums of the world, etc., they're actually in the Donetsk region, which is actually occupied by Russia at the moment. There are smaller pockets elsewhere in Ukraine. So possibly he's got to figure out how he deals with Putin, who's annexed or next to annexed parts of Ukraine where these deposits lie, and Ukraine, which is saying, well, we want their territory back. And in addition, if we provide some sort of deal on the profits from the mines or some sort of revenue stream from those mines yet to be built or in the process of being built, I don't know the status of the mines, in addition to a security deal. So the President Zelensky will not want to do a deal without knowing that NATO and or the US are there behind them. Now, where that leaves Putin, I don't know. So you're right, Zelensky's going to Washington on Friday, but he ain't going to sign across, I don't think, rights to those mines in a disputed region without getting the region back and a security guarantee. So I don't think the deal's in the bag yet.
No, but I was also just thinking on that one. Zelensky has said that he might step down, and I mean, and there'll be elections as part of the deal. Trump's moves on the Ukraine have obviously upset the Europeans because they expected to be supporting Ukraine till presumably the Ukraine was liberated, whatever decade that might be. Given that Trump moves quickly, and you've got to say gets results, whether you like it or not, what does it suggest for New Zealand's relationship with the United States as well? That, I mean, will he ever contemplate New Zealand A? So do we need to worry, Craig? B, is he always going to be looking for a commercial advantage for the United States from whichever relationship he has with New Zealand?